The Honda CBR600F is probably one of the most popular first big bikes. I've never ridden one. I'm going to change that.
Down in the dirt.
So here we are on the 2002 Honda CBR600F. Well, what I love about these older sports bikes is just the sheer physical proportions of the thing. They're substantial. You know, you feel like you're on a big bike. This actually probably feels bigger than any of the modern thousands, more or less. Bit of a girth across the tank, feels good. Seating positions, not too bad. Sports bike, you're thrown over the front, it's just the way it is. Let's sort out the mirrors as best we can. Tuck my elbows in, I should be okay. Yeah, not too bad there, I think. Okay, right, now this has got auto choke. Now, I've had this running for quite a while, so it's not too bad, but when you first turn these on and they're cold, they'll whack right up to about 4,500 revs. So it's the old starting up early in the morning, you're going to miff your neighbours off, because it is quite loud for about the first 4 or 5 minutes. I think Steve was saying from Budget Bikes here, Steve was saying till it gets to about 40 odd degrees, then the auto clutch should sort of switch off, then the revs will come back down. So I have a route plotted, my Kalimoto, just a random route. I don't know anywhere out around here. We're sort of in Swindon, where Budget Bikes are based, so I'm just going to head south and see where we go. So, straight away, it's just your sort of typical sports bike. Seating position, foot pegs are fairly high, but not drastically. Bike actually feels quite throaty, it feels good. The engine sounds really good actually. This thing has got just under 34,000 miles on the clock. Oh, just finding the clutch point on this. Now this bike has no ABS, no slipper clutch, no traction control, no blipper, no quick shifter. It's just a good old-fashioned engine and 2 wheels. Feels lovely and light in the corner. Now the levers feel a bit weird. These are like eBay specials on this bike, because it's a second-hand bike. There's a lot of aftermarket components on it. The levers feel a bit cheese. And the engine feels and sounds lovely. Nice throaty roar to it. It's got an aftermarket can on it. I think what we'll do, folks, is I will switch you off and I'll join you again when we get out of the town and onto some good roads. See you shortly. Does sound good, this. As with any typical inline 4, the key to riding these, if you want the performance, is get the revs up. Never truer than in the older inline 4s like this. You really have to get those revs right up. So at the moment I think I'm in 4th. There's no gear selector, but I think I'm in 4th. Trundling along 3,500 revs, 40 mile an hour. If I were to tweak the throttle, not much happens. Whack that down to 2nd, I'm in 40. It's not a wall of power like you get in some of the newer bikes, but there's definitely much more reaction there on the throttle. So here we go into the Nationals, down at the 2nd. Again, it's round about that 8,000 revs. That's where your performance is on this. Below that, not much going on. Riding position, this is not bad at all, you know. The pegs feel higher up, like sports bike sort of high, but not ridiculous. They're not, my heels aren't up round my ankles or anything daft like that. I don't actually feel like my weight is thrown over onto my wrists at all. I feel like I could cover quite considerable mileage on this bike and be fairly comfortable. It wouldn't be my wrists that would get it, I think, initially. For me, it would be my hips, my ankles, because my legs are higher up. But because this has got such a nice big prominent tank, you can really grip that with your legs, with your thighs. Almost sit back, and you're not putting any weight on your wrists. It's a nice riding position. My visor keeps steaming up. I changed visors and I only got one pin lock from Rorock, so I had to take the pin lock off of the tinted visor that I had and put it onto this one, and it's just, I don't know, it's not fitted right. Taking it off, putting it back on again, no matter what I do, there must be a gap somewhere, so it keeps steaming up. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Right, let's find somewhere to pull over and have a look at the stats on this bike. Well, that was cool. Massive thanks to Chris at the Who'd Have Thought It, the pub. I just stopped to try and have a little look and see what specs this thing has. And he came over for a chat. Turns out he follows the channel. So Chris, absolute pleasure to meet you and chat with you, bud. Thanks very much for coming to say hello. And folks, if you're ever passing this neck of the woods, wherever I am, I'll put it up on the screen now. I'm just outside Marlborough, sort of west of Marlborough. Pop into the Who'd Have Thought It and share the love. Small business owners here in the UK, well, worldwide, but nationals, particularly here in the UK, they need our business more than ever, folks. So if you can, shop local, let's do our bit if we can. But anyway, back to this bike. So 2002 Honda CBR600F. This thing sits at around about, I think it's about 95, 98 brake, around about the 65 to 75 brake horsepower. So it's not going to rip your face off, but it's not bad. No quick shifter, no blippers, no ABS, no semi-active suspension. This is a good old-fashioned bike. Talking of suspension, the ride is not bad at all. Bit of a bumpy road this, but it's not horrendous. Bike's got 34,000 miles on the clock. Feels alright. Clutch feels good. Doesn't feel like there's a horrendous amount of slack in the throttle. Yeah, not bad at all, this. Looks like this has got a double bubble screen on it. I think you can get bigger ones. Personally speaking, I'd probably want a slightly bigger screen. Or you can get those spoilers, those deflectors that go on the top. Because I can certainly hear quite a bit of wind noise around the helmet. Not always a good thing. That's got a lovely roar on it. Got a really nice rasping noise. Little bit of play in the brakes there. Don't know if it's the levers. Yeah, pull on the brakes. Kind of feels like there's not too much going on there after the initial bite. Initial bite's not bad at all. And then it just doesn't. I was wondering where the line was there. And then it feels like there's not really a heck of a lot going on. There you go. Get north of 7,000 and then there's the pull. Hold third gear in this, you can have fun all day long in that. But let's go in here, shall we? In a byway. That will do. Cool.
This is a 2002 model with 34,000 miles on the clock. Massive thanks to Budget Bikes UK in Swindon for lending me the bike to take out and review. Out the factory, It had round about 85 to 95 brake horsepower, and it had around 65 to 70 Newton meters of torque. So it's never going to rip your face off. However, like a typical inline 4, get the revs up north of 7 to 8,000, drop it down into second and third gear, and that is where playtime lives. To me, that is what a sports bike should look like. It's got the aggressive front cowling to it. It's almost like it's snarling at you with the dropped beak. The arse is lifted up high in the air. But the seating position on it, the ergonomics, are not bad at all. The pegs are maybe a little bit high and a little bit far back for me, but I'm in my mid-40s and a bit of a fat lump. Probably wouldn't have bothered me as a young whippersnapper when I first got into biking. The bars, they're not bad at all. I don't feel like my weight is thrown over the front and all my weight's going onto my wrists. The big tank, it's a big sculpted slab of a tank, that, and it allows you to grip it with your legs, and using your core, you're taking all the weight off your arms. So it's actually a fairly comfortable seating position. The throttle delivery feels good. Feels still quite tight. Even at 34,000 miles, the throttle and the clutch, tight as a nut. Lovely, beautiful. Doesn't feel like there's much play at all in the throttle on this one. The brakes, the initial bite is good, but then it does feel like it fades a little bit after that. That could be maybe the calipers need a proper service, maybe the pads need changing, upgrading, might even be the lines. This particular model here has got the cheap eBay special levers on it. Probably change that, maybe bleed the system, something like that, I don't know. But the brakes definitely feel like they need a little bit more urgency for me after that initial bite. The engine, the sound is beautiful. It's got a lovely rasp to it on the initial burst of throttle. When you roll off the throttle, there's a lovely overrun as well. Beautiful, sounds great. The seat itself feels comfortable to me, no issues so far. It's no leather-bound armchair, but then it's not meant to be. This is a sports bike after all. They're roomier than the modern sports bikes for sure. Even at 600cc, this is probably bigger than most of the 1000cc sports bikes that are on the market now. So, is there a place for these classic bikes? Can't believe I'm saying, is that a classic? A 2002 bike? Is it a classic? It's 18 years old, so I suppose it is now. But is there still a place in the modern biking world for these bikes? Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't embarrass themselves in terms of performance. They don't embarrass themselves in terms of looks. You'll pick one of these up easily for $2.5 grand, possibly even less depending on the mileage and depending on the nick of the bike. It is definitely a great first bike. It's a great introduction to the big bike world, to sports bikes. Your insurance will be fairly low on this. The initial outlay to buy the bike is going to be low. And the good thing about these is even when you do drop it or have a prang, there are spares everywhere for these bikes. So absolutely, definitely, if you're in the market for a first big bike or a winter hack or something to play on, check out the CBR600F. A huge thank you to Budget Bikes UK in Swindon for the loan of their fleet. I'm looking forward to working with you guys into the future. Okay folks, that'll do us for this week. Keep on keeping on, keep doing your thing, look after those that you love, but most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ah! Did you spot the deliberate mistake? I deleted the whole SD card that had the hand camera on it. That's why you don't see any shots of me at the end. Sorry. And it's the same for the next FJR vid as well. Amateur.